A woman in her 70s is dead after being stabbed while unloading groceries. Police say it was an unprovoked attack. We'll take you live to that shocking crime scene and check in with Melissa Duggan and Steve Ryan.
And more violence in Toronto. A fatal shooting outside Yorkdale Mall. It leaves a man in his 20s dead. The search is now on for a suspect. Beatrice Vaisman joins us live in moments.
Also this hour, an 80-year-old woman received several stitches after a terrifying dog attack in Little Portugal. We hear from her tonight.
Plus, plans for an Eglinton Crosstown LRT September opening may be derailed. This is after a former top TTC official says that goal is likely a reach.
You're watching Live at 5.
Good evening. I'm Bakari Savage.
And I'm Lena Latafat. Thanks for joining us and welcome to Live at 5. We begin tonight with a chilling scene. A woman stabbed to death in a North York parking lot. Investigators say she was simply just getting her groceries.
And for more of what police are calling an unprovoked attack, let's go live to CP24's Melissa Duggan, who has team coverage with CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan. Melissa.
Yeah, Lena and Bakari, what we've been hearing from police today, breaking down a very grim series of events. A woman, as you've been saying, in her 70s, just putting her groceries in her vehicle around 9:30 this morning in a busy plaza here in North York at Parkway Forest and Shepherd. That is when she was attacked, an unprovoked attack. It's not clear if the victim and the suspect knew each other. The woman was unresponsive at the scene. She was rushed to hospital, and that is where she was pronounced dead from these stab wounds. Now the search is on for the suspect in this case. We do have a description to share with you. He's described as a man, black, 5'7" to 5'10", carrying a sharp-edged weapon with him. He fled this scene on foot. Joining us here at the scene is CP24 crime analyst Steve Ryan. A very disturbing scenario being described by police here. Again, happening in broad daylight, a very busy plaza, too.
And such an unpredictable act. And these are the type of occurrences that really get the attention of law enforcement because they're very troubling. You've got a woman putting her groceries in her car in her 70s. There really is no nexus. There's no connection between the suspect and the deceased. So where do you start looking? And it appears to be a random attack, which is very concerning for law enforcement because it is unpredictable. And how do you warn people about keeping themselves safe if a person is just going about their day-to-day life and they get stabbed?
Yeah, very disturbing scenario here. We have been hearing from police throughout the day. They did share us some details. I wanted to have a bit of a look at what they had to say to us. Then we're going to have a bit of a conversation about that afterwards. Here's police.
We do not have any information to suggest there's an ongoing threat to public safety at this time. However, we do encourage you to be aware of your surroundings. We are treating these investigations with the utmost of seriousness. Again, this was appears to be an unprovoked attack, and so it's being treated with the utmost seriousness. And we have many resources from across the city at the scene trying to gather evidence and locate witnesses to figure out what occurred.
So what they're saying there, no signs to suggest that there is a threat to public safety. But when we hear that there is a man on the loose with a weapon who just stabbed a woman in her 70s, killing her, I wonder how you kind of square that.
Hard to square. Maybe there's information that we are not privy to, but by definition, this is a threat to public safety if you've got a random unprovoked attack happening in broad daylight in this busy strip mall. It would suggest that there is a threat to public safety until this person is identified and arrested. But maybe there's information that the police just aren't sharing with us.
Thanks so much for that, Steve. That's CP24 crime analyst Steve Ryan joining us here, breaking down this investigation. We did hear from police earlier today that they do plan on releasing some photos of the suspect that they are looking for. So we're still standing by for that, Bakari and Lena.
So very disturbing. Melissa Duggan reporting live on this developing story. And Melissa and Steve, thanks so much. And turning to more violence in our city tonight, shots rang out outside Yorkdale Shopping Center early this morning, leaving a man in his 20s dead.
As CP24's Beatrice Vaisman joins us live outside of that mall. Beatrice.
But Carolina, the investigation still underway here at Yorkdale Mall. Some 11 hours after this shooting actually happened, around 6:13. That's when police say they got the first calls into 911 about gunfire here outside of Yorkdale Mall, just outside of entrance 3. About half an hour later, this man in his 20s was pronounced dead here at the scene. A video posted to social media actually shows kind of the flurry of first responders first arriving here just minutes after this shooting happened. Multiple ambulances, a big police presence, fire trucks here as these first responders worked to save this man's life. Unfortunately, they were not successful in doing so. His body was under black tent for much of the day as forensic investigators and the homicide squad detectives really tried to piece together all of the evidence in this case. One of the witnesses that our Arda Zakarian spoke to earlier this morning, a construction worker who was here at the scene when the shooting happened, described hearing anywhere from 6 to 10 shots. And I can tell you there were 6 evidence markers laid down on the ground by police in the general vicinity of entrance 3 where this shooting happened. If you're watching us at home and you're familiar with Yorkdale, entrance 3 on the northeast side of the mall, right next to the Indigo store, that's where this man's body was found. As for detectives, their message in this homicide very different than the one at the homicide where Melissa and Steve at. That one appearing potentially to be random. This one, police adamant, was a targeted homicide. Here's more from the detective who talked to us earlier this morning.
The shooting took place outside entrance number 3 in the parking lot area. That's what I can tell you.
And did believe it was targeted?
At this point in time, the investigation is in its early stage. What I can tell you is that it is not a random shooting.
Within the hour, Lena and Bakari, I was standing here at the periphery of the scene. We've been pushed back by Yorkdale security, but I watched as 2 vehicles were put on a police flatbed tow truck and taken from the scene. One appeared to be a silver minivan or SUV. The second, I believe, was a blue Honda Civic on the back of that police tow truck. These 2 vehicles now seemingly being taken for further forensic investigation. Their connection to this homicide not clear at this point. Did one of them belong to the victim? Police did not say if the victim was inside a vehicle when he was shot. His identity also not released. Also, we don't know how many suspects police are looking for. They've put out no suspect description whatsoever. One person, multiple people involved. Was there a getaway vehicle? Still a lot of things we don't have answers to at this point, but the investigation here at Yorkdale Mall still continues this evening.
Okay, live outside of Yorkdale Shopping Center, CP24's Beatrice Faison. Beatrice, thank you. Well, Hamilton police, they raided a home this morning as they continue to search for a 17-year-old wanted in connection with the shooting death of an innocent bystander.
Yeah, police confirmed to CP24 that they searched a home on Mary Street. Overnight, officers could be seen in tactical gear as they carried out the operation. No arrests were made, and police say they're still looking for Mikhail Lavoie.
Yeah, police obtained permission to identify Lavoie, even though he's under 18. Investigators say that he met 3 individuals in downtown Hamilton last Friday, whom they say, quote, appear to have been the intended targets. He then allegedly opened fire, striking one of them. Police say innocent bystander, 26-year-old Belinda Sarkody, was killed in that shooting. And police are urging Lavoie to get a lawyer and turn himself in.
A pedestrian is in hospital after being hit by a vehicle in North York.
The collision happened in the area of Jane Street and Frith Road. That was shortly before 3:30 this afternoon. Paramedics say that a man was taken to hospital in serious condition with potentially life-threatening injuries. There's no word yet on what led to the crash or if any charges are going to be laid.
It's 5:08, 26 degrees. Let's get a check on that drive home with our traffic specialist, Adjoa and Siayab. How's it looking, Adj?
Lena, it's a tough drive. So many problems happening. And if you're traveling into Vaughan, we're dealing with a vehicle fire cleanup happening on the northbound lanes of the 400. It's in the collectors just north of Highway 7. It's the 2 right lanes that are blocked. What remains of the vehicle is still there, but the fire at least is out, and that backlog is from the 401. A little bit of good news. Just watched this problem clear seconds ago. Eastbound on the 401. This is at Brock Street in Whitby. We had a collision. It was there for the last little bit, had the left lane blocked. It cleared. Still problems, though, to deal with on the Niagara-bound lanes of the QEW. This is just at the 403 in Oakville. Multi-vehicle crash that does have the left lane occupied. Friendly reminder, no access to the Lakeshore. It's going to be that way right on into the weekend because of the Honda Indy. Lakeshore shut down both ways between British British Columbia and Strawn. Strawn closed both ways between the Lakeshore all the way down towards Fleet Street. Again, it's going to last the entire weekend. Outside of Camera View, we're dealing with a collision involving an e-bike in North York as well. So southbound Weston Road closed from Finch all the way down to Imogene as that investigation does continue. I'll send it back to you both.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
Toronto Police and Animal Services are looking for a dog that attacked and injured a senior. This happened in the Dundas and Dufferin area.
Yeah, in Little Portugal. For the latest on this, let's bring in CP24's Lindsay Biscay, and we're hearing from that woman who was attacked, Lindsay.
Yes, we are. We're hearing from the woman. We're hearing from her daughter, who was the original person that emailed CP24 to tell us about this incident that happened. It's pretty scary stuff. So we'll break down exactly what we heard from the daughter. According to the daughter and witnesses on scene, this was at about 10:45 this morning in the area of Dundas and Dufferin. The 80-year-old woman was actually just crossing the street at that intersection heading east, and two people with a dog, that dog is pictured here, were crossing heading west, and that's when, unprovoked, the dog jumped up and bit the lady in the arm. Now, witnesses in the area noticed that the woman was bleeding profusely, so they stopped her to try to get her medical help. They say that the two owners were very apologetic, but didn't stick around. They and the dog left the area, and here you can see some bandages on the 80-year-old victim's arm. So we know at this point that the woman has been treated, obviously. She had 8 stitches to her arm. We do have images of the actual wounds themselves. We're not going to show those because they are quite graphic, but I can tell you that there's puncture holes to her arm, and again, 8 stitches were needed to sew that back up. So at this point, there's no word on where the owners and the dog are, but as you mentioned, we have spoken with the victim and her daughters today, and they say they're incredibly concerned at this moment. Take a listen.
The bystanders did say that the dog was aggressive walking across the street with its owner. It was jumping, and the owner was kind of hitting it. So it was already agitated. But my mom had no idea that she just crossed them and didn't realize the dog was just going to lunge at her.
So the City of Toronto has told CTV News that it is aware of this incident this morning. It says a Toronto Animal Services officer is now investigating. We also know Toronto Police are investigating this incident. Lena Bakari and I did reach out just last hour to check in to see if the owner or the dog has been found at this time, and police told me that there's no information to share at this time. Back to you.
Okay, so they're still looking for that. Okay, Lindsay Biscay reporting live. Thanks so much, Lindsay. It's 5:12, 23 degrees, and you're watching Live at 5.
And coming up, the former interim head of the TTC told the board today that he is skeptical the Eglinton Crosstown LRT is going to be open by September. We have reaction coming up.
Welcome back. Well, for weeks, we have been hearing that the Eglinton Crosstown LRT could be opening by September. This after commuters have been waiting for years. But today, we're hearing from the former interim CEO of the TTC, who says that goal, well, it is a reach.
Yeah, let's go live to CP24. CJ Liu. CJ.
Yeah, Lena Bakari, some bad news for commuters today. The Eglinton Crosstown LRT opening date may be delayed again. The last check we had was that it was supposed to open in September. Premier Doug Ford told us last month that it was on track to open then, but now September is looking like a stretch. And even this moment, we see trains passing by, but passengers won't be able to get on those trains this September, most likely. In a TTC board meeting today, Councillor Josh Matlow, he asked the outgoing TTC CEO Greg Percy if the long-delayed light rail transit line would be ready to open this September. We'll let you take a listen to his answer.
It's still Metrolinx's decision. There's a number of us that are deeply involved in this and to push it over the line, working intimately, closely with Metrolinx. So we're looking at still this fall to get something happening.
But not September.
I think September's a reach.
It's a reach?
Yeah. But this fall is plausible, and certainly by year end.
And these trains that you see passing by are undergoing stress testing right now. That's what Metrolink says it still needs to do. It says they have made a lot of progress. They have finished all the civil infrastructure needed. They have trained the drivers. So now all they need to do is do some more testing to make sure the system is up and running properly on the actual opening date. But we've been speaking to commuters today who say they are frustrated, but they are not surprised. Keep in mind, this is now the 14th year of construction. It was supposed to open in 2020, and now there is still no firm opening date. Here's how people were feeling today about the news.
I'm just like a bit mad that it keeps getting delayed, but I can take other routes to like transport.
I don't know, it's mixed feelings. It's supposed to be open like, what, 2020? And now it's, I don't know, it's crazy.
Do you take the train transit here a lot?
Yeah, I do. I will be once it opens finally, hopefully, unless I'm driving a car by then, but I plan on it at least.
Yeah, how will that make your commute easier?
Well, honestly, I'm hoping that it cuts down on traffic in general, because I know that they have their own set of lights. Hopefully that's something enough where it'll cut down on my time getting down to the station and whatnot.
Yeah, and even that young boy we interviewed earlier, he was 11 years old. So construction for the LRT started before he was even alive. And he was saying, I'll probably be driving a car by the time the actual thing opens. As for a firm timeline of when it will actually open, we don't have that just yet. Metrolink says they are still aiming for September. The outgoing TTC CEO says certainly by the end of the year. So Lena Bakari will have to see how things play out.
That little boy, the 11-year-old's experience, I feel like really puts things into perspective. Sija Liu reporting live tonight in the Eglinton area. Thanks so much, Sija. It's now 5:17, 23 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
And coming up, Toronto's new shelters now officially open to help out those in need. We're going to take a look at St. Felix Centre near Adelaide and Bathurst. Well, Toronto's newest shelter is now officially open to help out those in need.
St. Felix Centre is on Adelaide near Bathurst. The shelter had its official opening today, and it'll be able to host 50 adults experiencing homelessness with the goal of getting them a permanent place to live. The centre will also be able to help them access any health or other social assistance they may need. And one of the people in charge of St. Felix says there's no question the city needs this type of facility.
The reality is we are in a crisis. The street needs assessment shows that the number of people experiencing homelessness has skyrocketed in the last 3 years. And these essential services shouldn't really be political. There shouldn't be anything controversial about helping people get connected to services, get off the street, and find their way to independent living again.
And the shelter replaces an old one on Augusta Avenue, which closed 2 years ago.
Well, Prime Minister Mark Carney met with First Nations leaders today about a controversial bill aimed at fast-tracking major infrastructure projects.
And some First Nations leaders, they walked out of the meeting saying instead of engaging with Carney, they were told to speak to one another. So Carney promised the meeting with First Nations leaders after chiefs said that their rights were not respected by the rush to push Bill C-5 through Parliament last month. The legislation allows cabinet to quickly approve projects like mines and pipelines by overriding existing laws. Now, Carney talked at the start of the summit.
In many respects, this is the first federal legislation to put Indigenous economic growth at its core. We now have the opportunity to realize it. So today we're going to discuss how we can do this together, particularly by hearing directly from you about what you want to build, how you want to build to help build our nations.
And Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepanak spoke to media about this morning's meeting.
Look, I think he's got to come up with some commitments, firm commitments, hopefully by the end of this day and in the weeks ahead, and to make sure that there's no big budget cuts. We didn't talk about the budget. I know that there's budget cuts being proposed across this country, but I know that previous prime ministers, knowing how tight budgets are for First Nations already and how huge the gaps are, they need to exclude First Nations people from those budget cuts, along with things like healthcare, things that are important to all Canadians, and closing that gap.
And earlier this week, 9 First Nations announced a constitutional challenge of the bill, as well as a similar bill passed by the Ford government. So we're going to have more from the summit in Gatineau throughout the evening.
Well, a stark new report out this morning is warning that Canada is already in a recession and job losses could soon start piling up.
Oxford Economics forecasts that plans to ramp up Canadian defense spending is going to be a boost for the economy this year, but it's not going to be enough to pull the economy out of a downturn that it thinks started last quarter. So Oxford says that the economy could lose 140,000 jobs through the rest of the year as sectors beyond those directly hit by U.S. tariffs start to see layoffs.
523, 23 degrees out there, much cooler tonight. You're watching Live at 5.
The annual Ontario Honda Dealers Indy, it's set to speed through the city this weekend. Today, the trophies were revealed. We're going to take a look. That's next.
Welcome back. It is the hardware Indy car racers will be chasing all weekend long here in Toronto. And today, those trophies were unveiled.
And we got a first look at the trophies, second and third place trophies today at the William Ashley's flagship store. So they were created by the Waterford Crystal Works of Art. The drivers will hoist in celebration on Winners Row come Sunday. This is going to be Sunday afternoon after the checkered flag flies at the Honda Indy. And the defending champ says that the memento of his Toronto win, it holds a special place in his home.
Yeah, it's cool. You know, I think there are some trophies that when you win, you're like, really, this is what I'm getting? And there are very few that when you get them, you're super excited about, and just beautiful works of art. So it's definitely in that section.
All right, so the big race goes Sunday, but racing activity goes all weekend around the X grounds.
And the Maple Leafs have traded for Dakota Joshua.
The Leafs announced the deal this afternoon, which would send a 4th-round pick to Vancouver in exchange for Joshua. The 29-year-old forward suited up for 57 games last season with the Canucks, posting 7 goals and 7 assists. The Michigan native was originally drafted by Toronto in the 5th round of the 2014 draft.
Well, a soccer player from the GTA is now the most expensive female player ever.
Olivia Smith, originally from North York, but grew up in Whitby, just set a record transfer fee of $1.3 million. That's what Women's Super League Arsenal paid Liverpool for the 20-year-old this week. Smith was the youngest woman ever to represent Canada at age 15. She also represented our country at the 2023 World Cup. What a superstar.
It's 5:27, 23 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Police say a woman in her 70s is dead after being stabbed while loading groceries in her car in what they say appears to be an unprovoked attack near Shepherd and Don Mills. We're going to have extensive coverage right after this.
Stabbed while unloading groceries. A woman in her 70s is dead. Police say this was an unprovoked attack. We're going to take you live to the scene and check in with CP24's Melissa Duggan and crime analyst Steve Ryan.
And more violence in Toronto. A fatal shooting outside Yorkdale Mall leaves a man in his 20s dead. This is a live look at that scene. The search now on for a suspect. Our Beatrice Faisman joins us in moments.
Also this hour, an 80-year-old woman received several stitches after a terrifying dog attack in Little Portugal. The dog and its owners still at large. We're going to hear from the victim tonight.
Plus, plans for an Eglinton Crosstown LRT September opening may be derailed after a former top TTC official says that goal is likely a reach.
This is Live at 5.
Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Lena Latifat.
I'm Bakari Savage. We begin tonight with a chilling scene. A woman stabbed to death in a North York parking lot. Investigators say that she was just simply getting her groceries.
For more on what police are calling an unprovoked attack, let's go live to CP24's Melissa Duggan. Melissa.
An elderly woman out running her errands this morning, Bakari and Lena, getting groceries, and that is when she was fatally stabbed in the parking lot behind me here. This is at Parkway and Shepherd, happening about 9:30 this morning. The search is on for the suspect in this case. There is video that police have obtained. They have been able to release some details from the images they've gathered as part of their search for the suspect. A description they have released saying they're looking for a black male between 5'7" and 5'10", carrying carrying a sharp-edged weapon, what is believed to be the weapon in this fatal stabbing. He fled the scene on foot. This is what police are describing as an unprovoked attack. CP24 crime analyst Steve Ryan joining us right now. How much of a challenge does that nature of this attack pose for police when they're looking for the person responsible?
Well, when you have no connection between a deceased and the suspect, it makes it much more difficult to identify who that suspect is. Now, in this particular case, there's lots of very good surveillance in this strip plaza, and there may have been a lot of witnesses as well that the police can speak with. But it certainly is the most troubling of offenses because there is no connection right now between either of the two parties, and it was unprovoked. So what do you say to the general public to keep themselves safe? These are the most concerning and the most troubling for investigators.
Yeah, at this moment, police saying it's unclear if the victim or suspect knew each other. I should also mention the suspect that they're looking for was wearing a balaclava at the time of the attack, which certainly would make it more difficult to find the suspect.
Yeah, it certainly would. And that could lead to a first-degree murder charge being laid if a person goes to cover their face before committing a homicide. But that's, that's down the road for investigators to figure out. But what will be important, besides the still photos that will be released, is the videotape, because the videotape will show the manner in which the suspect is walking, perhaps even show a pair of shoes that he is wearing, and that may just tip somebody who's watching to go, oh, I recognize those shoes, or I recognize that person's walk, and they provide the information to the police.
We have spent a lot of time talking about the suspect wanted in this case, obviously, because police are looking for them at this time. But it's important to also talk about the victim. Their name has not been released. I do want to share what police are revealing about the woman who was killed.
We can confirm it's a female in her 70s. Her identity will not be released at this time out of respect for her family, and there are several notifications to be followed as well. At this time, we do not know whether the suspect was known to the victim at all. This, of course, is one of the many questions that our investigators are on scene. We have homicide investigators from the local division here at 33, among many other resources, trying to figure out what occurred this morning.
The police scene has cleared here now. Earlier, there was what's believed to be the victim's vehicle that was towed away from the scene. How would that be part of this investigation?
So the vehicle was impounded by a departmental tow truck with the Toronto Police. That'll be taken to a pristine location where the forensic officers will analyze potential evidence on that vehicle. Hopefully, with any investigation, there's luck involved as well. So perhaps the suspect touched that vehicle. There could be fingerprints lifted off it. Maybe there's other trace evidence that was transferred from the suspect onto that vehicle. So as part of the thorough investigation, the police will examine that vehicle. But oftentimes, too, fingers crossed, you need some luck to advance a case.
Appreciate your insight as always. CP24 Steve Ryan joining us. Thanks so much for that. Again, a woman in her 70s stabbed and killed here this morning, happening at 9:30. Bakari and Lena in a very busy plaza. Back to you.
Live team coverage in North York with CP24's Melissa Duggan and crime analyst Steve Ryan. Thank you both. Well, turning to more violence in our city. So shots rang out. This was outside of Yorkdale Shopping Center happening early this morning, leaving a man in his 20s dead.
CP24's Beatrice Faisman joins us live outside that mall with the very latest. And I understand you have new information for us tonight. Beatrice, what can you say?
I do. Lena, Bakari, I've since learned from multiple police sources that the victim, the latest homicide victim here in the city, is a 28-year-old man from Montreal. He was gunned down just outside of Yorkdale Mall around 6:13 this morning. That's when police say the first calls came into them about gunfire here in this area, just outside of entrance 3 to the mall. It's the northeast side of the mall, just outside of the Indigo store. That's where this man was found. He was pronounced dead by first responders about half an hour later. So again, police sources confirming to CP24 the victim is a 28-year-old man from Montreal. I want to show you some social media video that we've also obtained. It shows kind of the minutes after this shooting happened as first responders arrived here to Yorkdale. Again, almost 12 hours ago now. Lots of police officers, multiple ambulances and paramedics, several fire trucks. And again, this all captured by someone driving past the area and posted to social media essentially within the half hour after this shooting happened. Police have put out a very pertinent piece of information here, and it's quite different from the scene where Melissa and Steve have spent the entirety of the afternoon. That scene, an unprovoked attack, potentially a random attack. In this situation here at Yorkdale, the detective from the homicide squad saying that this was a targeted shooting. So now we know this 28-year-old man targeted by someone or multiple people, gunned down. Police would not say if the victim was inside a vehicle when he was shot and killed or if he was outside of the vehicle, but he was found out on the pavement in front of entrance 3. As for witnesses, of course, this happened hours before the mall was actually open to the public. There were already some vehicles here and people milling about because it is a major transit hub. And so police now appealing for anyone that might have dash camera footage or any cell phone footage to come forward. If you have any information that you think they should know, give police a call. Here's more from the detective in charge of this case.
For anyone who may have been in the area at the time, it's at 6:13 a.m. this morning, especially those with dash cam or cell phone footage, to please come forward. Even the smallest piece of information can be critical to an investigation. We understand that an incident like this, particularly in a public location like a mall, can be deeply unsettling. I want to assure the public that we're dedicating all necessary resources to this case.
It was just before 2 o'clock this afternoon, Lena and Bakari, that we watched as several vehicles were actually taken from the inside of the police tape and put on the back of a police tow truck and taken here from the scene. One of them appeared to be a silver minivan, the second a blue Honda Civic. Unclear what the connection of these vehicles are, but they're now being taken for further forensic examination by police. Investigators have not said anything at all about suspects, if they're looking for one person or multiple, and they've not said if there was a getaway vehicle involved as well, or the description of that vehicle. But again, CP24 confirming with police sources that the victim here of this deadly shooting outside of Yorkdale Mall is a 28-year-old man from Montreal. And I'm also told, Lena and Bakari, that he was previously known to police. Now we know he was targeted, shot and killed outside of the mall. Back to you.
All right, Beatrice Faisman working on this investigation for us. Beatrice, thanks so much. Time now is 5:38, 23 degrees. Switching gears, let's get a check on that evening drive with our traffic specialist, Adjua and Siayab. Why, looks like a rough one out there, Adj.
You know what it is? So many problems happening and creating all sorts of delays for your commute. So we'll start with problems happening in Vaughan. It was the vehicle fire being cleaned up. This is on the northbound lanes of the 400 in the collectors north of Highway 7. It was the two right lanes that were blocked, and it looks like they're just clearing the scene because they hooked up what remained of that vehicle, and now it's off the highway. So this drive should start to improve. In the meantime, there's still a bit of a backlog from well before Steeles. Headed towards the Niagara-bound lanes of the QEW. Problem still with us. Niagara-bound QEW. This is through the 403 in Oakville. Find the left lane blocked. That is following an ongoing collision. Still major delays on the Gardner as you try to make your way out of and head into the downtown core. Slower than normal because of the closure of the Lakeshore. Shut down starting today into the weekend for the Honda Indy. Lakeshore shut down both ways between British Columbia all the way over to Strawn. Strawn closed as well, north and southbound between Fleet and the Lakeshore for the Honda Indy. And outside of camera view, so many problems happening on city streets. We continue to deal with this collision involving an e-bike. So southbound Weston Road closed from Finch to Imogene, as well Jane blocked in sections just north of Shepherd for a collision involving an e-scooter, and glass falling off of a building. Continues to see Simcoe closed between Wellington and Front. So yes, it is a busy evening. Send it back to you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Adj.
Welcome.
An 80-year-old woman is recovering following an unprovoked dog attack just steps from her Little Portugal home. It left her with 9 stitches.
And now Toronto Police and Animal Services are trying to locate that dog and its owners. For the latest, let's bring in CP24's Lindsay Biscay. This is terrifying, Lindsay. What happened?
It is terrifying. So this was around 10:45 this morning, Lena and Bakari, in the area of Dufferin and Dundas, in the city's west end in Little Portugal. We actually, CP24, received an email this morning from the victim's daughter who told us what happened. But this 80-year-old woman was crossing the street at Dundas and Dufferin. She was heading east, and 2 people who had a dog were heading west. And throughout the intersection, that is where the dog jumped up on the lady unprovoked and bit her arm. Here's a picture of the dog we are talking about. At this point, it doesn't appear as though police have found the dog or the owners, but the woman was bit in the arm. Witnesses in the area say she was bleeding profusely. Here's some images of the woman's arm now bandaged up. But we did speak with the woman and her daughters today about this incident. We'll hear from the victim herself first, talking about what happened after she was bit. Take a listen.
I yelled. I said, "What's going on? Look at your dog who bites me."
What did they say?
They were very sorry, but I said, don't tell me that. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my. That's it, is what I heard. But they were very sorry.
So they were very sorry, but at the same time, witnesses say after apologizing a lot, the two took off with the dog, and witnesses in the area were left to tend to the woman and call 911 and get her the medical attention that she needed. Now, they have actually sent us images of the wound on the woman's arm. We're not going to show those because they are quite graphic, but I can tell you it's on her forearm, just below her elbow, and there are puncture wounds and bruises around that, and she has since needed 8 stitches in repair. So again, we've been speaking with the victim and her daughter today, showing us the end result here after the stitches, which is a lot of Band-Aids around the arm. But not just that, a lot of fear as well. The daughter was telling CTV News just how concerned she is that the owners of the dog and the dog itself are still out there.
Our concern is that there is a dog out there who's vicious, who could attack again, who could attack another senior, possibly even a small child. Had it been a child, it would have been horrible.
So the City of Toronto has told CTV News that it is aware of the incident. It says Toronto Animal Services officer is now investigating. We also know, Lena and Bakari, that Toronto Police are investigating. They are aware of this incident. I did check in just last hour to see if there's any update in terms of locating the owner or this dog at this point, and they would not provide any information. So we'll keep an eye on that. But for now, back to you.
Okay, joining us live from the newsroom, CP24's Lindsay Biscay. Lindsay, thank you. It's 5:42, 23 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, the former interim head of the TTC telling the board today he's skeptical the Eglinton Crosstown LRT will be open by September. So more disappointment and another delay maybe. We're going to have more reaction coming up.
The former interim CEO of the TTC is skeptical about the Eglinton Crosstown LRT opening by September.
Let's go live now to CP24's Sija Liu for the latest on what could be yet another delay. And I'm sure a lot of people speaking to you tonight, see, they're not surprised, Sija.
That's right, Lena Bakari, not surprised and definitely disappointed that the Eglinton Crosstown LRT could be facing another delay. At last check, we heard that this was supposed to open in September. It was on track, but we heard a much different story today at the TTC board meeting. City Councillor Josh Matlow asked the outgoing interim CEO, Greg Percy, if it would be open in September, and he said September is a reach. Here's more of his response. Take a listen.
It's still Metrolinx's decision. There's a number of us that are deeply involved in this and to push it over the line, working intimately, closely with Metrolinx. So we're looking at still this fall to get something happening.
But not September.
I think September's a reach.
It's a reach?
Yeah. But this fall is plausible, and certainly by year end.
And at this hour, we see trains passing by with that out of service sign. Metrolinx is doing testing right now to make sure as these trains can be up and running for whenever that opening date is. They tell us they are still on track, targeting for September. The Ministry of Transportation also says they are targeting for September right now, and that a lot of progress has been made. They've trained the drivers, they have figured out all the infrastructure behind it, and now they just need to do some stress testing to make sure that everything is reliable when it does open. But we spoke to some commuters today who say they are just disappointed that it is possibly being delayed again. Take a listen.
I've lived in this area for pretty much half my life, and since construction started maybe like 10 plus years ago, it's been constantly delayed. There's no break on that. Yeah, it's not the greatest, because especially with traffic and everything in this area now, the lights lasting longer, I can tell it's just very annoying for people that live in the area.
It's just a bit annoying because it's been like really long and I've been waiting to use it, so.
How would it make your commute easier once it's open?
Maybe like the other buses would be more empty, or that one would be more empty, and maybe it would be faster because it goes faster than vehicles.
Well, how long have people been waiting to be exact? Well, construction started back in 2011. It was supposed to be open in 2020, but there has been delay after delay for various issues, from finances to just trying to work out the kinks with the project. And it looks like there may be another possible delay. It was set to open in September, but now September is looking like a stretch. And Lena Bakari, the latest update we're getting is end of the year, hopefully. Back to you.
Okay, fingers and toes crossed, I guess. Sija Liu reporting live. Thanks so much, Sija. Well, TTC Chair Jamal Myers and Councillor Josh Matlow spoke to the media prior to that TTC meeting today about plans for dedicated bus lanes on Bathurst and Dufferin.
I understand that there are local realities that we have to live with. There are local stakeholders that need to be consulted properly, and we want to make sure everybody feels that they've been consulted before these types of decisions are made. And we want to make sure that we're respectful to the communities that we're operating in, because if the communities feel like the process wasn't fair or their voice wasn't heard, while these decisions may go through, they go through in a destructive way that sort of ruins the trust and relationship between the citizens and City Hall. So we want to make sure that the process we're using going forward is much better, and much more better at reflecting and incorporating the voices of people in the community.
It should not be a narrow and frankly unintelligent debate about do you like buses or not. Most people not only like buses, they want our transit system to move and get out of traffic, but it's got to be done well, and the time is going to be taken to do that as well as possible.
Well, the current plan, which still needs City Council approval, it would see dedicated transit lanes added on Bathurst and Dufferin south of Bloor. They'd be in place in time for the FIFA World Cup next year.
It is 5:50 now, 23 degrees. This is Live at 5.
And coming up, Toronto's newest shelter is now officially open to help out those in need. We're going to take a look at St. Felix Centre near Adelaide and Bathurst. Toronto's newest shelter is now officially open to help out those in need.
St. Felix Centre is on Adelaide near Bathurst. The shelter had its official opening today, and it'll be able to host 50 adults experiencing homelessness with the goal of getting them a permanent place to live. The centre will also be able to help them access any health or other social assistance they may need. And those involved in the issue of helping those who need housing say the new shelter is badly needed.
We continue to be in the middle of a homelessness and housing crisis in the city of Toronto. Just last week, we released data from our 2024 street needs assessment. And that assessment determined that there were over 15,000 people in the city of Toronto experiencing homelessness and over 1,600 people living outdoors.
And this shelter replaces an old one on Augusta Avenue, which closed 2 years ago.
It is now 5:53, 23 degrees, noticeably cooler in the city this hour. You're watching Live at 5.
Well, Quebec diners can now face a fine if they miss a reservation. We're going to take a closer look at this practice and how common it is right here in Ontario. Well, Quebec diners can now face a fine if they missed a reservation.
Yeah, restaurants in Quebec can now charge up to $10 for each no-show. An association representing the province's restaurant owners say no-shows cost the average eatery about $49,000 per year. Restaurants have to follow a number of rules to apply the fee, including reminding customers of bookings and giving them an easy way to cancel. The fee can be applied only to groups of 2 or more, by the way, and only if none of the members of the party shows up. And for a closer look at the story and what the rules are here in Ontario, we're joined live tonight by Milena Stanoeva, spokesperson for Restaurants Canada. Hey, thanks so much for joining us. Many of us in Toronto will notice that when you make reservations through platforms like OpenTable, in some cases you do agree to paying a $50 fee if you miss your reservation. How is that different from what's happening in Quebec?
Yeah, I mean, Quebec is a special case. They have very different consumer protection laws than the rest of Canada. And so while the rest of Canada doesn't legislate or enforce one way or the other how restaurants manage their reservations, Quebec up until now prohibited explicitly restaurants and other businesses that take reservations from charging no-show fees. So the new legislation really opens up a little bit of the rules for restaurants in Quebec to charge a nominal amount. It's still fairly low, $10 a head, compared to, as you said, here in Ontario, where it could be 50 or even more if you're choosing a kind of like set menu. But it is a step in the right direction.
Okay, so how common is it for restaurants to actually charge a no-show fee, and how easy is it for us to cancel?
It's becoming more and more common. Over the past 5 years, we've seen no-shows kind of increase as a phenomenon, and in response, more and more restaurants have started doing this. It's also fairly common in places like Europe and the States. Now, how much is it actually happening is hard to say, because each restaurant in Ontario can really choose what they want to do with their reservation policy. It's fairly open to them to interpret and to enforce.
Okay, Milena Stanoeva, spokesperson for Restaurants Canada. Thanks so much for chatting with us about this.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me.
It's 5:59, 23 degrees. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24.
Thanks so much for joining us.